think every time I wanted to run away, she was there for me. And every time I wanted to give up on life, she really held me back. And that she is nobody else but my Sakhi. And that is my bicycle. As Punekar, I think all of you all know that we are born to learn a cycle. चालायला येईल की नाही माहिती नाही पण सायकल करायला आलंच पाहिजे. That is how it is. So though I grew up in Mumbai, I was a hardcore Punekar and she made sure that we learned, and my brother learned cycling right since our childhood. I never knew that those stumbling falls in which and those bhadeka cycles of 25 paise, 20 paise for an hour, 50 paise for an hour cycling lessons will one day be my biggest saviors in my life. So it so happened that I did pick up cycling, I continued cycling, I enjoyed cycling, but that was just for fun. And that was just like bringing cycle for an hour and cycling. It was a time when I was growing up, I was a teenager. Life was taking its own turn. We suddenly had changed homes. After 15 years, my parents had finally found a stable home in Mumbai after living in rented places. My school was different. There were no friends in school. There were no friends in colony. My Aji, with whom I was so deeply attached, had expired the same year. And maybe I was in my 13s, which is typically called the puberty age. My body was going through its own hormonal havoc. And I really didn't know what was happening with me. Sometimes I was weepy, sometimes I was cranky, sometimes I was crying. And I knew that I and Baba were really busy with their own baggage and trying to manage day-to-day life's challenges. So I felt I had nobody to go to. After initially a month of going to school every day and just sitting and crying and then going off to sleep, it so happened that I came home and told Baba that I'm tired of doing this buswala routine. Is it possible for you to buy me a cycle? Because I'd figured it out that there were a couple of boys in our area who used to go cycling to school. And that is when I got my first cycle. I didn't know what role she played in my life at that time, but every day cycling to school, coming home in the evening again cycling, and then taking long rides to Sahara Airport was what kept my body into movement. Now today when I understand neuroscience, neurophysics, I realize what was happening to my body. As I brought movement into my life, it was possible for me to release all those hormonal changes that were happening in my body and realign my body. And within no time, I found myself in a much, much, much healthier mental state and much happier state to deal with my pubertal blues. Well, life goes on, and I think that's what my brain had learned, that movement, sports, any kind of physical activity can help you to rebalance yourself and to reinitiate a state of equilibrium in yourself. And that's exactly what came to my rescue when, as women, we go to the next another important phase of our life, that is marriage, childbirth, and then postpartum depression, the pregnancy blues. I had no idea what it is in spite of being a doctor at that time. Every time I found myself getting up in the morning feeling so inadequate, not so sure of whether I'm really fit and capable of bringing this baby up who was in my lap, crying every day evening with evening colics and not sleeping the whole night. I was just wondering, what am I really doing? Am I even fit to be a mother here? And when I was surrounded by amazing people, but they all were more focused on what I ate, halivacha ladu, dinkacha ladu, and I was just putting on weight, trying to breastfeed a baby. I was like in total mess. That was the time that year on my birthday when my husband asked me, what do you want for gift? I told him, please can you buy me a cycle? कारण ती जुनी cycle मुंबईला केव्हाच गंजून गेली होती. That cycle once again came in my life. It was a maroon color ladybird, and I started cycling. Once again, my brain learned from the old patterns. Cycling once again helped me to come out of my postpartum blues and my pregnancy blues. I didn't know what was happening at that time, but whatever efforts I put into cycling, with that huge weight cycling, I realized it wasn't easy. My knees started paining. That helped me to go to the gym, to start training and losing weight. So that's when I realized that when you bring any sport, any moment in your life, everything changes. Then the diet changed, the lifestyle changed. I was a better mother to my baby, I think. At least I think so. So that's what I feel, that my Sakhi, my cycle has always held me so beautifully. And then a time came, life happens with all of us. And then another challenge came in my life. That was in 2013. I was diagnosed with third stage ovarian cancer. At that time, once again, sports came in my life. I knew that this was the toughest time. Physically, the body was going through its own challenges, but mentally, I needed to remain sane. I needed to remain more balanced. I needed to remain in my grounding so that the body can go through the whole treatment. And that's where I started running at that time. And running once again helped me to come out of my problems. I went on to become an ambassador. I went on to become a mascot for cancer. I started running marathons, duathlons, cyclothons, and it was a beautiful time where all kind of physical activities allowed me to reinitiate health, vitality, and well-being in my body. Having learned from my own journey, I myself being a doctor, I expanded my practice to become an holistic health consultant and maybe an holistic cancer consultant. I found so many cancer patients coming to me asking for my story, because at that time I had not taken any chemotherapies or radiations. I completely healed myself based on holistic approach, just diet, nutrition, lifestyle, and movement and exercises, and of course healing the mind. But when I was going through this journey and when I felt that life was just set and absolutely perfect for me, destiny had another plan for me. There was another curve which I had to negotiate, and where again my Sakhi was with me. And this was in 2023, where there was a recurrence of cancer again, and this time in my liver. I had no idea what was happening to my body at that time. But because I was constantly into fitness and health activities, even though this was happening on a day-to-day basis, nothing changed for me. I was going to my work, I was taking care of the family. Just casually, my brother asked me, "Agar to, how big is your mass?" So I said, "The recent report says it is 12 centimeters. He said, "Yeah, really?" Now, he's a chartered accountant, so he always has habit of putting things in numbers. So he said, "And how much is your liver?" So I said, "It's 14 centimeters. So he said, "Sis, you're living with just 2 centimeters of healthy liver. Do you know what's happening in your life?" So that was when he put it in numbers. In spite of me being a doctor, the reality actually hit me. And I was so thankful to my body that the body was able to give its best in spite of all that. And that is when it so happened that even though the body was going fine, I was waking up every day, feeling like a failure. Because from 2013 to 2023, I had worked as a holistic cancer consultant for people. I had counseled more than 2,000 to 5,000 people on how to support their body when they are going through their cancer journey. I felt like my own body had failed me. I felt so ashamed of myself, and every time I walked into a clinic and every time I had to consult a cancer patient, I just didn't have the strength to look them in their eye. It just felt like my own body had cheated me, and even though the whole treatment was going so well, there was an internal battle that I was fighting within me about this sense of failure, this whole guilt and shame, which is so difficult to deal with. And that's where, once again, even though my body was frail and tired, I decided to get my cycle out. And every day morning, I used to just go and cycle for 5-6 kilometers. It was nothing very big, but small things, one pedal after another. But that was my space. That was the space where I could just be me. I could be angry, I could be hurt, I could shout, I could scream, I could come out with all my conversations. And she just held a very safe, non-judgmental, open space for me. That was the most beautiful space that I needed. All that venting out that I did while I did my cycling allowed me to go deeper. It brought more clarity. It helped me to align my energy. Eventually, realize that it's okay what has happened. I need to accept the reality and be able to move forward. And maybe there's a reason why this has happened. When that acceptance eventually came, it was much more easier for me to deal with my own physical body, help my body to heal, because I knew with this negative mindset, no matter what kind of treatments I took, it would not be possible for me to heal myself. But most importantly, it gave me the confidence to go back to my clinic and reconnect with my patients, to face them and to tell them it's okay, I've been there, I've seen that, I know what the journey is. When patients with recurrence started coming to me again, I felt I was better equipped, in better position to understand what their journey is and what they are going through. Maybe I was able to understand God's plan even more better this time now. What I can say is that my Sakhi has always been with me, and she has helped me to move from stuckness to movement. She has helped me to move from fear to freedom. And that's who she has been, my biggest therapist in my life. Thank you for listening to my story.